Okay, welcome back to another lecture in your favorite course, Armology. Today we're going to be discussing volume. As you can see here, volume refers to the number of sets, working sets, that you do in a specific workout. A set, for anyone who's a beginner, is you pick up a barbell and you do 10 repetitions and then you put the barbell down. That's one set of barbell biceps curls. Now, how many sets should we do in a workout? It's a really good question. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. I'm going to share with you my model based on over a decade of experimenting with all kinds of different volume. I've done anywhere from 2 to 3 sets per workout all the way up to 100 sets. Okay, 100 working sets for an arm workout. And I've condensed it down into this graphic right here. So I'm going to walk you through this. And by the end of this, you're going to have a good gauge of what type of volume you should apply to your training to maximize your arm growth so you can go out there and absolutely grow some pipe daddy, some big old thickies hanging out the side of your shirts, okay? So tune in, pay attention. Here we go. Hop on board. Keep arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. We're going to be moving at a high clip, so focus in. I'm going to go over a couple basics here with the graphic. All right, number one, on this vertical axis, we have muscle gain, okay? So the amount of muscle you're going to gain, the amount of growth, muscle growth that you're going to stimulate in a workout. That's what you can think of for the vertical axis here, all right? And you can see at the bottom, we've got 0. So you made 0 gains. The way that you trained, what you did when you went in there and worked out, stimulated 0 muscle growth, all right? That's a worst case scenario right there. At the top, best case scenario, we've got it marked here. You're maxing out your muscle gains, all right? We're cruising up this vertical axis, swole AF. Okay, that's where you want to be. Trust me, that is a good spot. Right at the top there, baby. Okay, moving on to the horizontal axis here down on the bottom. Moving horizontally, we've got number of sets. How many sets do we do in a given session? This is referring to one workout, okay? In a given workout, how many sets should we do to lead to muscle growth for our arms, for the pipe daddies? You can see this goes from 2 sets, 4 sets, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20, and beyond, okay? Hopefully that's making sense so far. Now, if you draw your attention to the red line, this is what I've carved out over my many years of experimentation, trying all kinds of different workouts. Like I said, 2 to 3 sets, all the way up to 100 sets. Assessing, paying attention, changing other variables, moving things around, obsessing about it, analyzing. Here's what I've found, okay? You can see here where the 8 is, we've got a dotted line coming up. And where the 12 is, we got another dotted line going vertically. And in between the two of them, I've shaded it blue. Okay, we've titled this the column of juicy swollenness. This is where you want to be. This is the ideal range, the ideal amount of sets you want to do in a given workout. Somewhere between 8 to 12 working sets for each muscle. We're talking about arms, primarily biceps, triceps. So you should do 8 to 12 working sets of biceps, 8 to 12 working sets of triceps. In other lectures, we've discussed the superset structure, the amount of rest times you should do. I think, if you've seen those, you're privy to this already. If not, quick crash course. I think your best bet is a superset, meaning doing a set of biceps, barbell curls, and then immediately, or resting, and then going and doing a set of triceps, whichever exercise you're doing, and then coming back to the biceps, going back and forth, while also resting in between, not going immediately. Okay? Either way, you could do straight sets. You could do your set of barbell curls, rest, another set of barbell curls, rest. I've found at least 8 up to 12 to be optimal, okay? And that's what I currently operate in. Now, if you're down here, where most people are, in the 2 to 8, where they just tack on a couple little sets here and there, not going to be significant enough to stimulate growth. Although, I would say that volume is not the most important factor. I think intensity is. You'd be better off to do a couple sets really intense than 12 sets with a meandering, strolling through a meadow, enjoying your afternoon type of attitude, which a lot of people approach their workouts with, which is not adequate to stimulate growth, okay? You got to come in there with some purpose, a little bit of juice, a little bit of fire, and attack your sets, all right? So Commonly, people are down here. You don't want to be down there. Maybe when you first start out as a beginner, again, you do anything with consistency, you'll see some results in the first 6 months to a year because you're tapping into your newbie gains. As long as you push somewhat hard and show up consistently, you'll see results. But once you pass that, you need to bump it up a little bit. Do some more sets, okay? It's going to lead to more growth. Now, something to note is that you can see the graph continues beyond this. And I've ventured into this treacherous territory, the swamps of Mordor. All right? And on my journey, I discovered many a thing. And you'll notice that it goes up to 20, and then the graph ends. However, this red line continues. That's me. At the wheel, still driving, doing more sets. What do you mean more than 20 working sets in a week? Yeah, let's try it. And I drove this bitch all the way out. All the way out here. Even further. All the way out to 100. Yeah. And what did I find? What did I find out there? Not much useful. And that's where what I would call this region, beyond 20 sets, up to 100, or even infinity, if you kept going forever, the domain of psychosis. Okay? Because you got to be a little psychotic to do 100 sets in a workout. All right? And you can see that out there, we pass the peak. Again, on the vertical axis, the swole AF, we max it out here, all right, in the 8 to 12 set range. Once we start going past that, this starts to drop down. So we're way out here, you know, doing 25 sets. That bumps us down some, okay? It's not as effective. And why? I've got a very simple equation here to illustrate this for you. mg is abbreviated for muscle gain. Okay, very simple. Muscle gain. This V is volume. This I is intensity. Okay, very simple equation. Muscle gain equals volume plus intensity. Now, you're probably saying there's many more factors that go into that. Rest times, tempo, recovery, sleep, food, protein, frequency, how often do you hit the muscle? This is a simplified equation just to make my point here, okay? I realize it doesn't include all the variables, but bear with me and come on this journey where we imagine the only two things that influence muscle gain are the amount of volume you do, the amount of sets, and the amount of intensity that you do those sets with. Do you push all of them where you approach failure, you hit failure, you come nowhere near failure, you go beyond failure? Intensity. And what happens is, I'll do it in red, as volume goes up, muscle gain goes up, okay? To a point, as you can see here, as I've illustrated in the graph. But then, if volume continues to keep going up, all the way up to 20 plus sets, muscle gain starts to go down some. All right? So there's a positive relationship between muscle gain and volume, as you can see here. As we go from 2 sets, that would get us this amount, let's say A, this amount of muscle gain. We bump that up to 4 sets in a workout. Boom, we're at point B. We've increased the muscle gain from each workout that we could get. That continues to be positive. As we increase the sets, the muscle gain goes up. We kind of peak around 8 to 12, and then it starts to decrease. And why, one of the main reasons, is that intensity starts to go down. So if you're doing 30 sets, 40 sets, 50 sets, 100 sets, how intense can you push each one of those sets? That starts to decrease, okay? Whereas if you're only doing 4, 5, 6 sets, you could go ballistic if you really wanted to. I only got to do 4 of these. I can go all out. I can do 100 of these. How much intensity can I really apply consistently over time? Fatigue sets in. And the other factor as well, not included in our equation, but you could add it on to the end. You could say plus R, which is recovery. Okay, and again, the higher the volume goes up, the worse your recovery is going to be. The harder it's going to be for you to recover from a given session. the demand on your body starts to become very extreme, where it's difficult to recover and build muscle and gain from all of that. And the things you're doing in your recovery become more and more important. You need to sleep more, you need to eat more, you need to rest more. I know sleep and rest can be different things. Sleep, you're actually in another dimension. Rest can just be taking it easy, not really burning calories, relaxing a little bit, which I think can be a useful way to live if you're trying to build muscle. You don't want to be out running around, stressing yourself out, doing a zillion different things if you're trying to maximize your recovery. So that's what I found going into the domain of psychosis. Although something I will mention is that if you go out there, if you have the gall to journey out into the domain of psychosis and go beyond 20 working sets in an individual workout, you'll find some things about yourself mentally. You will discover what you got. You got some grit? You got some heart? What do you got? What's in there? From a mental perspective, doing these extreme workouts was very beneficial, and I will say I've gained mental toughness, mental strength, the ability to push through extreme fatigue from doing these workouts, and I'm able to apply that in the column of juicy swollenness when, let's say, I'm fatigued, I didn't get a good sleep, I'm stressed out because of school or this or that, other thing is happening that's impeding my ability to excel in an individual workout. I've been out in the domain of psychosis, so this ain't nothing. This ain't nothing, man. That's light work. Didn't sleep much last night. That's light work, man. I've been out here doing 100 sets, brother. That'll test your mentality. Another set, another set, another set. So there is some mental gain that you can benefit from this to then apply to your sessions here. But if you're wondering, based on somebody who's experimented with all the different types of volume, I know there's science and studies out there that says do this, do that, do that. Within a controlled setting with these 10 people, we found this, did this. Okay, it's all useful. But I'm saying I went out and did all this shit, and I applied it over many years, and this is what I found. All right? And I would summarize it here where, again, the 8 to 12 working sets per workout is probably the best range that you want to be in. And something to also consider is that volume can be looked at as like weekly volume instead of workout volume. This is all based on an individual session, okay? A lot of times you could look at it as like, what is the optimal amount of volume to do in a week, all right? And now that's a function of your frequency, of how often you train. If you do 10 sets in a workout and you do that arm workout twice a week, 10 times 2 is 20 sets per week. All right, and that's kind of another discussion, and I found it to be less impactful on muscle growth, trying to figure out how many sets should I do total in a week? Should I spread it out across more workouts? In my experience, dabbling into that, I don't think it's as predictive of muscle growth, and I think the main thing to focus on is the amount of sets that you do in a workout, trying to do a session that sparks muscle growth, that stimulates muscle growth. And frequency will be in another lecture, which I may record right after this. So I hope that you learned a thing or two about volume and you have a rough idea of how you want to approach your training. Again, if you're a very beginner, it's okay to be down here in the 2, 4, 6 set range. But if you've been working out for 6 months or more, bump it up. Add a few extra sets, get in the 8 to 12. If you want to experiment and go 14, 16, up to 20 plus, you can try it. But again, you're then going to start to probably lower your intensity and lower your body's ability to recover from all that work, or stress your body in a way where your total recovery is going to be maybe not as optimized. So those are things to keep in mind if you want to go in the 12 to 20 range here. And going beyond that into the domain of psychosis, I only recommend that if you want to test yourself mentally. And you could potentially take those mental gains and then apply them to a lower volume workout and use them to build physical gains. You could indirectly make muscle gain by going into the domain of psychosis, but in and of itself, doing more than 20 sets in an individual workout, I didn't find to necessarily be super ideal in terms of training because, again, it affects the other variables. And that's something that you should be thinking about, is that this muscle gain equation includes volume, includes intensity, includes rest, or recovery, includes frequency. We could tack on a whole bunch of different things there, and they're always playing off of each other. In this example, if you up volume to a point, it's positive for muscle gain, but then it could start to decrease because you lower your intensity, you lower your recovery, so forth. And same thing with any of the other variables. If you max out your intensity, you may have to change the amount of volume. You may have to change the amount of rest days in between. You lower your frequency. Those are the types of things that you should start to think about. And again, my intent with some of these lectures is to get you thinking about your training, because ultimately that's the best way to progress in the long term. Instead of looking for what is the answer, what is the number of sets. I could have just put on the board 10 sets. That's it, one number. Instead, this is a whole lesson to get you thinking about what could be optimal, what things you should try, and how you should think about it as you go, so you can start to build your framework for what's working for you. And I think if you really want to, if you have significant goals and you want to build muscle long term in your arms or anywhere else, you need to take some ownership of your training and start thinking about it and start writing it down, what you're doing, and experimenting and mixing and matching around with some of these variables, if you care that much. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.